Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Back in the garage again today, but there's no cars in here. Today, I'm going to be working on our water heater. Now this is an A.O. Smith hybrid water heater. So it's basically got a heat pump up on top, and then it's got dual heating elements. We bought this one to replace the old regular electronic one, hopefully to save some money on the expensive electric bills here in North Carolina. That has helped some. Also, the other one just wasn't keeping up with 6 people in our family, now 5. This one did it did slightly better. At times, if you look these up, they are really nice water heaters. The compressor side can be a little bit loud. I don't think it's too loud to do anything here. If I was going to sit in here and try to watch a movie, or I had something set up like that in my garage, obviously it might be a little bit louder than I want, but it's not. I don't think it's that loud. If I'm recording a video, it is kind of annoying, so I turn it on to the heating elements there. But otherwise, it's been a pretty good water heater. We've had it for about 6 months now. The problem that I'm running into is I have no water pressure. It was very little, and I just came over here to try to see if I can get a little out of it, what was going on, and now I have 0 water pressure coming out of my hot water pipe. So this water heater is not heating. So one thing I did do back in June, I put in a thermostatic mixing valve because we still were not getting enough hot water. And obviously looking up the thermostatic mixing valves and what they do, this was the solution to our problem without going to a tankless and without venting and gas and everything else. Power requirements, we just couldn't do a tankless in this location. But what we do have is this thermostatic mixing valve. Now, with the thermostatic mixing valve, for those who don't know, obviously the cold water comes into the water heater. There's a T that goes in the bottom. It runs up through these braided lines and these braided hoses. The one that came with wasn't long enough, so I had to get another one, and I got a union here, but it comes on up to the thermostatic mixing valve. And on the other side here, it might be hard to see, there's a yellow adjustment if you want to, but basically this mixes hot and cold at a point here. So you basically use half of the water that you would normally use, or probably more than half, but you'd use a percentage of the water that you normally use as it comes out to the hot. And what you're supposed to do, and what we did do, is adjust I think this was a little over 120 degrees from the initial settings. This is at 140 now. And then the thermostatic mixing valve, this one was the cheaper one from Lowe's. I think it was like 80 bucks. The one that I see on there now is like 120, but so they're around $100 for one of these. Really easy to install, didn't take me long at all. But this is set, and it was set from the factory at 120 degrees. So it mixes the 140 with the cold water, comes out 120 degrees, and we get 120 at the tap. My wife likes it a little warmer. Maybe I'll turn it up a little bit, but after this, but we'll see. But like I said, we have no water pressure. I was trying to figure out what it might be, and just kind of looking at it, I'm pretty sure there was a screen in here somewhere. So it could be a screen here. It could be clogged at the outlet. I can't remember if this fitting, one of the fittings came with a little rubber insert that actually was like a one-way valve, and it had it on both ends. I can't remember if I took it out or not, or if I said, hey, I'll just leave it in. I don't think it matters. The water's not going to come backwards because it's pressurized on this end. So it's kind of stupid if I did leave it in, but I probably did because, it's me. It's what I do. I think the inlet down here is fine. It's either this valve. Well, actually, I don't believe it's this valve anymore, but I'm going to check it anyway because we have no water pressure. If this valve was not letting in cold water, then we would still have some water pressure, or it would just revert completely to the hot, but it's not unless this valve is shutting off because there's no cold, but I don't believe that's the case. But we'll see once we get it open. So I'm going to take this apart and then find out where the restriction is, because I think it's definitely restricted. Definitely like 90% sure, but I'm probably wrong. We'll see how it goes. But we do have perfect cold water pressure, so that's not the problem. But the first thing I did to start this was hit the main power at the breaker. You could probably leave this on or turn it off on the settings. I'm not going to touch the electronics in this thing at all, so we should be good. And then I hooked up the drain hose. Another really weird thing was I turned the drain hose on, I opened it, and only like half a gallon of water came out. So that was really weird. And then this pan has not had water in it before. So on the relief valve, I opened the relief valve, and a lot of sediment came out here at the bottom. So you can kind of see, I think you can see the sediment there. So this sediment came out, and a lot of sand and sediment. So it looks like there's a lot of sediment coming out of this thing. So that leads me to believe there probably is some sediment here. So we'll see if, when I open it, if pressure fills this hose, and then you know, the hose is running outside. Obviously, if we get some pressure in there, we'll see if the if that pressure. But that's really weird. I didn't know the last time I did this, and when I installed the mixing valve, when I opened up the water heater, it drained like normal. So and I did open the faucet upstairs, so it should be draining like, you know, water system would drain. So I'm not completely understanding why, unless it's just that clogged in here that there's no air coming in. So it's vapor locked or air locked. So it can't replace the pressure in the tank with air. So I'm going to get to taking this guy apart. And all I'm going to use right now, I have a crescent wrench. The screwdriver is just for taking the valve off, and then a pair of channel locks. Oh, you son of a... So the first thing is, if you look down there, there's a lot of sediment down in there. So, yeah, that's awesome. So let's go ahead and keep on keeping. I wonder if we can see any. No, I got my finger there. I can't feel anything yet. So I think I'm gonna have to keep taking this thing apart. Let me just twist this one out here. Oh, you son of a gun. So, yeah, we've clearly made a mess. Now that I broke that thermostatic mixing valve free, we are leaking everywhere. This one seemed to break free, so I think there's definitely restriction in the mixing valve. I'll go ahead and get this hose up somehow and get this out of the way so it's not going to leak, and then we'll drain this and figure out how to get that valve finished here. All right, looks like I found the problem, the culprit. There is a screen here. I do remember the screen. When I put it in, I remember that I thought there was a screen. This screen is, so this is where the hot comes out of the water heater into the thermostatic mixing valve. It is just caked full of junk. Looking on this side, this is where the cold water comes in. The screen looks pretty good. And then kind of looking down, I don't know if you can see down in there. This is the valve itself. Doesn't look too bad down in there. So I'm gonna pull this screen out. Let's see how bad it looks. There's the O-ring. And then let's take this C-clip out. And let's see if we can get this screen out. Let's go ahead and there it goes. All right, she's out. Valve looks good, but the screen looks terrible. Yeah, so let me get a wire brush. See what we can clean that up. The wires to actually hopefully poke through and clean that crap out of there. This is not as easy as it looks. Just scrape this. This stuff is really finely packed in there. Half of me wants to just take this damn thing off. Leave the screen out of there, right? Just let this go into our fittings. We don't have any expensive fittings or fixtures. No expensive fixtures should be just fine, right? Yeah. Oh, freaking cheap shower heads will clog up, and then yeah, I'll never hear the end of it. We have girls in this house. Just, you know. It was this way before. This flat ring was kind of in. I am going to turn it so that this is out and it kind of goes backwards so it can reverse the flow of this crap, I guess. That's my goal. All right, she is super clean. I don't know if you can see that, how well you can see the screen there. The real trick is, I literally just walked over and hit it with brake cleaner, and all the crap that I couldn't get out with this wire brush just came right the heck out. So we're gonna put this back together. There's that, guys. The screen's in. That lock washer actually clipped in there really easily. Wipe off this O-ring. It's nice and clean. All right, got that O-ring back in here. That's awesome. And then I'm going to come on. Again, I like to put my fingernail in here, especially the first few threads, so that, you know, sometimes if it's a really tight connection, like I think it was over here, it'll strip some of that thread tape off of there. All right, we're all set. We're going to install it and see if we got hot water. All right, so first thing is how to set this mixing valve. So I know I want to increase the pressure on this mixing valve. So this mixing valve, this thermostatic valve, has this cover here above the adjustment. And the adjustment has a little plus and an arrow. So inside, well, on the end of this cap, there's a triangle, and inside there's a triangle. So this is actually, the cap is actually the tool to adjust it. And then there's a sleeve. So if this sleeve is tight, it's not going to adjust. So you loosen the sleeve up with a pair of pliers, as I did, and then you put the triangle on the triangle. And I don't know, so this doesn't have it doesn't really clearly tell you how much you're going, so I'm just going to go a little bit. So, you know, just hopefully a few degrees. I don't want to, you know, like I said, you don't want to go too hot. You don't want to burn anyone in the house. But it's set at 120, so yeah, one day I'll figure out, my wife will figure out how hot that is. And I'll probably turn up the water heater to like 145. And then this guy just pops right back on. So I tighten that sleeve, put this one back on, and now we're all set to go back together. All right, mixing valve is all back together. I took the hose off, drained that pan. It's kind of stupid. It's actually lower on that side, but whatever. Turned off the valve for the drain. Haven't quite turned the hot water heater on yet. Everybody calls it a hot water heater. Sure. But haven't quite turned the water heater back on yet because it's kind of loud again, like I said. And to test that we have hot water, I really just care about the pressure. So I'm going to turn on the valve, and then we are going to make sure there's no leaks, and then I'll go to a faucet inside and see what we got. All right, valve is turning on. We can hear the water filling the water heater. Pull my... All right, so let that fill for a second, then I'll go inside, turn on the water, and see what we got. So while that is filling, though, I mean, what is the solution to this, right? And apparently this isn't necessarily an uncommon problem with water heaters. I think the solution that, if this does it again, that I will do, is move this entire setup, maybe against the wall, but I think I would run, I don't know if one of these hoses is what I want to run, or maybe a different fitting, but I think I would come out of the water heater and into one of those twist off filters. It's just the higher micron sediment filter. That way I can switch it out, rinse it out, put it back together, and not worry about this becoming so clogged as it was and causing an issue like it did. I think that is what I will do in the future if this keeps doing this, to stop that problem. And I'll show you how I do it so that we can eliminate this thing from clogging. The old water heater had a lot of sediment in it. So, you know, maybe it's just our water. Maybe it was just what was left in the system from replacing this. I don't know, but we'll see. And if there's any questions about this pipe, it's very crude. Please don't mind it. This is the drain, the condensate drain for the hybrid heat pump. So the heat pump does create, it does pull humidity out of the air, and then create a lot of condensate is created. The installer just put the hose down into the pan. That was not a solution. I moved the hose to this bucket, and it filled this bucket once a week, and it had to be drained. So all I did was had one of these little connectors. I think this is just a PEX connector for this 3/4 hose. And I had some of this left over from a project from years ago, and I just kind of fixed it along the wall, semi-permanently, semi-temporarily, whatever you want to call it. And then there's a 90 degree that's actually nicely installed outside. So this goes to a 90 that I did install correctly, and it just kind of goes out to the flower bed. But again, it's just condensate. The solutions are, you know, I've seen a pump. There's a 110 outlet not far away from here, but you could do a pump with a float valve if you want to do something like that, or you could just keep emptying the bucket. That is a solution. So, all right, we're going to go inside and see if we have hot water. All right, let's see cold water. That is a cold water pressure. Like I said before, we had 0 hot. Hot, cold, hot, no difference. All right, it's fixed. So as you just saw, great news. This A.O. Smith hybrid water heater is fixed. We have pressure again. Like I said, it went down to 0 water whatsoever. It had been getting slow for the past week or two. Yeah, I just kept dragging my feet because I got a lot of projects around here. Yeah, well, let's set this water heater. We'll see if it sets, and then we'll wait for it to turn on. And you'll hear how loud it is, because, you know, that's why I said some people's complaint about this water heater is the noise. All right, so I just set it to 145. And again, 145 is the temperature inside of the water heater. So obviously after adjusting the temperature, I had to hit enter. Make sure you do that because it reverted the last time I did it back to 140. But that's just the temperature inside the water heater. And as you can see, there's efficiency, and that is just the heat pump, hybrid electric, and then vacation mode. But coming over here, everything is dry, got no leaks. So that is good. Now it's running. Hopefully you can hear the noise. And really all the noise comes from the fan and the pump. So you can see the fan there. It does have a little bit of a rattle as the compressor kicks on. But hopefully you can hear me. If you can hear me over this, then you kind of hopefully understand how loud it is. I don't think it's that loud, especially being out in the garage. On the other side of the wall here is the kitchen. You can't really hear it from the kitchen at all. And on the other side of this wall here is, I guess, the formal dining room. We use it as a different room, but you can barely hear it in there. So even if someone was in there sleeping, I think it wouldn't even bother you at all. But my recommendation is you don't, unless you think you're gonna save money, and you have, you know, maybe 3 people in your house, maybe 4, and you're not going crazy with hot water, this may not necessarily be your solution, and it may not save you a lot of money, because the thermostatic mixing valve is what really does all the work in saving us water, hot water specifically, and keeping us going so this morning, my wife and I and our 2 youngest went on a walk. Typically we come back and we take 3 or 4 showers in a row. My other daughter takes her shower in the morning. 3 of my kids take showers in the morning. With the thermostatic mixing valve, we don't run out of hot water at all when we're doing that. So the valve itself is what does all the work. And looking back, you know, maybe I would have spent $500 less on this water heater and actually got a typical electric water heater and then installed the mixing valve. Maybe, I think there's some nicer ones out there, but they're pretty close to doing the same thing. And that would have been my solution. My solution wouldn't have been this one, but it has saved us a little bit. I do like it. It looks cool. It seems fancy. It seems like we're eco. It does say there could be a smart home grid thing. We can connect to it. We haven't done that yet, but yeah, in the future, if we do any more work to it, if I install the sediment filter, like I said, we'll show that. Otherwise, not. Again, thanks for sticking around. We'll see you guys in the next one.